Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm in this 2015 BMW 640 diesel Gran Coupe. This era of 6 Series has been around since 2011, initially as a coupe and a convertible. Then a year later they decided to make a 4-door version called the Gran Coupe. Presumably they did this to compete with the Audi A7 and the Mercedes CLS, and to be honest, I'm glad they did. It's a great looking car, this. I just think it's a real design success. If you're a cynical person, you'll dismiss this car straight away as a marketing exercise. You'll think that you're better off just buying a 5 Series and saving yourself some money. Well, I haven't really got a defence for that because that's kind of true. But this is much better looking and more interesting, so I suppose it is worth paying the premium for. A few years ago I had a 2011 640i convertible, which just looked like great value. It was high spec, and I think I paid around 15 grand for it. But after about 6 months or so, I won't say hate, because that's probably too strong a word, but I never bonded with it. It's weird, because on paper it seemed like the perfect car, but I just never really got on with it. It did everything I asked of it very well, but it just left me feeling cold. I can't really explain it, but I don't miss it at all. I always regretted not buying the Gran Coupe variant, which would have made much more sense. It's just a more accomplished car. Engine-wise, there are a couple of petrols and a diesel. There's a 3-litre straight 6 turbo, found in the 640i, or a 4.4 litre twin turbo V8 found in the 650. Or there's the straight 6 3-litre turbo diesel found in the 640 diesel like the one I'm in today. Whilst I'll openly admit I am quite anti-diesel, the V8 petrols are quite unreliable, and the 3-litre petrols are a bit underwhelming, they're a bit wet. Hand on heart, it's the 3-litre diesel which makes most sense. So diesel it is then. This particular one produces 310 horsepower, which, to use the scientific word, is plenty. You'll drive this and I promise you will never ever think, if only there were more power. This one's capable of 0 to 60 in around 5.5 seconds, which is sports car performance, isn't it? This is about as good as diesels get. It even sounds quite good. Let me pop it into sport mode. Everything's gone all red and aggressive. Oh, that's properly quick, you know. I've just frightened the life out of the Peugeot 207 in front. Pop it back into comfort. I'll try that again on the bypass. You can only buy this car as an automatic, which is no bad thing. It uses a conventional 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox, and it does a fantastic job. The gear changes are quick and smooth. You can also control the gears yourself if you knock it over into manual mode using these paddles behind the steering wheel. I also like the shark fin gear lever. In fact, I like the rest of the interior too. It's very stylish. You feel cocooned by this nice sweeping dash. It might not be the most cutting-edge interior sat here in 2022, but there's a sort of elegant simplicity to it that you'll appreciate, meaning it shouldn't age badly. The choice of materials are suitably high-end as well. It feels like you're in a sporty luxury car, which I suppose is exactly what you're in, so I guess there are no real surprises there. I'm currently sat here at the speed limit and there's not much wind noise or road noise. It's perfectly comfortable. The ride is a little bit on the firm side with these 20-inch wheels, but it's not cripplingly so. Even though the doors are pillarless, you can't hear any wind noise through them, which is unusual. I like how the passenger side of the dash sweeps round and marries up to this centre console. I like how the seats look as though they've been sculpted. It almost feels as though you're in an Italian car. Right, let's try that again in sport mode. Straight away, the throttle response is much more sharp. The gear changes are quicker. That's properly quick, you know. You really don't need to go any quicker than that. That's already a 3 points and an afternoon spent on a driving course. Pop that back into comfort. I know I've said it before about BMW's straight 6 diesel engine, but it just feels relentless. It pins you into your seat and just keeps going. Back to the interior then, you get a nice comfortable centre armrest, you get 2 cup holders, you get a TV screen big enough to rival anything in Dixon's, you get a little ashtray here, and the stereo is excellent, and you also get Bluetooth media streaming and Bluetooth hands-free. As my mother would say, you get all the mod cons. The infotainment system is controlled by this little rotary iDrive dial here, which always seems to get a bad reputation, but I always find it very easy to use and quite intuitive. One thing I will say about the interior, the windows are very shallow. Looking through the rearview mirror is a bit like looking through a letterbox. And the fact that this one's got the black headliner and no glass roof does feel quite dark in here. But there's plenty of space up front, Plenty of headroom, plenty of leg room, plenty of elbow room. The rear space doesn't fare quite so well. Believe it or not, there are 3 seats back there, although the middle one is only suitable for an anorexic. The boot space is good though, so if you find the middle passenger starts to complain about the lack of space, they might find it more comfortable back there. They can relax in all 460 litres of space. And the seats fold flat, which extends that space to 1260. It just means that contrary to what you might think about this car, it is actually quite practical. What's good with most upmarket BMWs is from the minute you sit behind the wheel, it feels like you're home. It just feels as though it's been tailor-made for you by some chap on Savile Row with a very thin moustache. It somehow feels bespoke. Something else that's good is the running costs aren't prohibitive. This 640 diesel will do around 37, 38 miles per gallon around town, and in excess of 50 on a motorway run. Here in the UK, 12 months road tax will only set you back £210, so it isn't an expensive car to run this. Everything so far then is so far so good. Well, I haven't even gotten to the best bit yet, and that's the drive. I could honestly write poetry about how well this car drives. I'm not exaggerating there either. It is about as good as a sensible daily driver can get. It's rear-wheel drive, so you still get the impression you could flick the tail out if you want to frighten your passengers. The steering is just about perfect. The brakes are superb, there's no body roll, it's just a joy to drive. It genuinely feels sporty without any of the sports car compromises. I've said this about other cars from time to time, but this is all the car you'd ever need, and some. As everyday cars go, I just can't see anybody getting bored of this. Oh, look at that. That was an SLS convertible. I think that's probably the only one I've ever seen. In terms of reliability, this is one of the very rare cases where I will champion the diesel over the petrol, because the petrols aren't great really. As I mentioned before, the V8s are quite unreliable. They can have turbo issues, timing chain issues, issues with the valve stem oil seals, so you're better off avoiding that one. Also, the 3-litre petrol can have issues with the turbo too, and they have a tendency to burn a bit of oil. In truth, the diesel is the better one to go for. If you change the oil and filter on this every 8 to 10,000 miles and run it on premium fuel and take it for a good lengthy run a couple of times a month, you really shouldn't encounter any issues. You might suffer with a sticky EGR valve or the odd warning message, but there's nothing really that frightening I can tell you about the 640D. Whilst we're on the subject though of maintenance and reliability, I probably sound like a broken record now because I just repeat myself in every video, but make sure you buy a good one to begin with. Don't buy one that's been pimped out. Buy one with good service records. Keep a couple of grand back, put it in a rainy day pot, so then when something does break, you won't be caught short. Service it every 8 to 10,000 miles. Service the gearbox when it gets to 80 or 90,000 miles. Run it on premium fuel, look after it, and touch wood, you should be okay. As always, it's a complicated premium car, so there's more to go wrong than with a simple Yaris. So if you keep a couple of grand back for those repairs, and always keep that money topped up, then you should be able to sleep soundly at night. Used prices here in the UK start at around £12,000, but beware because that will get you on with NASA mileage. You'll have to spend around 16 grand to get yourself a decent one with sensible miles. For one like this, a high-spec model that's only done 41,000 miles, expect to spend around 22, which still is an awful lot of car for the money. When you think brand new these were 50 or 60,000 pounds, it's lost an awful lot of value. If your budget will stretch, I would try and go for a facelift model. The 6 Series went under the knife in around 2015, and although the differences were quite minor, I think it's worth paying a premium for. It just brought it right up to date. They stopped making the 6 Series Gran Coupe in 2017. They've replaced it with a much more expensive 8 Series Gran Coupe, which means this is quite a rare car because it was only available for 5 years. You don't see that many of them on the road, and whenever I do, I always do a double take. They've just got so much presence. They're a good looking car. If you don't fancy a 6 Series Gran Coupe, you could go for a Mercedes CLS, which was the car that kick-started this whole banana-shaped saloon coupe craze. Or you could go for an Audi A7. Now both of those cars I've done videos with on this channel, so I'll leave the link at the end of this video to both of those. And to be honest, they're both great cars. Well, all 3 of them are great cars. I honestly don't know which one I'd choose, because they all have the pros and cons. The Mercedes is probably a little bit classier, the Audi A7 is a bit more striking to look at, but the 6 Series is the best to drive. Tough call that really. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. Well, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave you a link below. If you've got any comments or questions, let me know below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you're interested in getting into the used car business, then check out my online course. I've made an online platform with nearly 100 videos which explain every single aspect of the used motor trade. It includes everything you'll need to know, from funding options to branding to where to get your cars from to how to deal with customers, complaints, repairs. Everything's on there, so do check it out. So yeah, cheers guys, I'll see you next time.